Homage to the Triple Gem. So I was asked a question on Discord. Dear Bhante, between asubha and four elements contemplation for the body, which is a better one to get insight into annata and cut the fetter of Sakkāya-diṭṭhi? I was watching a video of Ajahn X, and it was mentioned that asubha is primarily to reduce lust and four elements is for insight into annata. Would that be the case? Because in my understanding, asubha breaks up the body into impersonal things as well. Wouldn't this give insight into annata as well? I'm asking this because four elements is a more abstract meditation topic for me, as of now. Asubha for the body seems easier to do. What would you suggest, Bhante? So, first of all, regarding the classification of asubha as being more for lust and annata, and the four elements being more for the perception of annata, or not self. The Ajahn in question has quite a lot of meditation experience, and it seems like a reasonable classification in many ways that that asubha is, it's going to look at the body in ways that make it unbeautiful, and the four elements is more focusing on the aspect that these really don't belong to one at all. Having said that, meditation is often a very kind of personal thing. So what helps to develop the perception of annata for one person may not be the same for another. So a lot of it has to do with the ease or the comfort with which a person's mind gels with a particular meditation topic. So there's a sutta on that which I've mentioned before in videos before. It's called the Sutta Sutta, which is the simile of the cook. And in that sutta, a cook lays out different curries and watches what curry his master takes. The Buddha uses that as a simile. And whatever his master takes, he provides more of that curry. So in a similar way, when a monk knows the citta nimitta, the theme of the mind, whatever basically helps their mind to settle down, helps their mind to be calm, then they do more of that. So if a person finds that contemplating asubha is comfortable, it feels like a good fit, there's an emotional element to this, like the same type of emotional element almost as if one meets a friend that they like, or you might say an intuitive element, like as if somebody is eating a type of food that just feels good for the body that they like. They might not be able to explain the exact chemical composition of the food. They might not be able to explain all the personality factors of the person they're talking to that make them like them, but they just have this feeling that they like them. So choosing a meditation topic and a way of meditating with that topic can have overlap with that. I mean, it's something in which there should be this kind of feeling that it's right. So if that kind of comes up for a person with asubha, more than say the four elements, then that's a good way to go. It's a good direction to go in. And asubha can be used for insight into annata. So on the Discord server I mentioned, there's actually, we're very lucky in the modern day, there's all these biographies of monks who've reached the end of the path in the modern day, very inspiring to read. And it's known that there's two monks basically who, probably more, but there's at least two cases that have been written about or spoken about. And in those cases, both these monks achieved stream entry through contemplating the body in different ways. One monk mainly seemed to get nimitta of corpses. Another one was contemplating bones, apparently. So it is possible to use asubha to develop the perception of annata and to develop the other perceptions as well. So the second and more hidden part of that question, though, is should you think about what topic is best for the development of annata, and then as a result of that theory, whatever theoretical stance a person takes, based on that investigation, this or that topic is best for annata. And then assume that that is what one has to develop in order to become a sotapanna. And other topics are kind of like a sidetrack, or they're just used to, eliminate some defilements that arise temporarily so that one can get back to the real work of the development of the perception of annata. So This is actually a kind of a larger issue in meditation, in a sense, in that we need to have theories about, like big picture theories about the way that things function. It's very useful, and the Buddha does provide big picture theories to a certain extent. He provides the Four Noble Truths. That's the biggest picture theory in the Buddha's teaching. All the other elements of his teaching fit into that. But one of the drawbacks, one of the dangers that can happen when people try to take like a theory about what's the most efficient way to become a stream enterer and look at it from the top down, is that what tends to happen is that they may develop a meditation practice which is kind of boxed in. It's kind of linear. It's like, first this has got to happen, then I've got to do this, and I've got to do this. And the way that the mind develops actually doesn't work that way. It's kind of, so there can be this kind of danger in taking this top-down approach and applying it to theories from the Buddha's teachings as to how one should proceed to eliminate one's defilements, to become a sotapanna, or a Sakkāya-diṭṭhi, or an anagami, or an arahant. So what we have from the Buddha in the canon are meditation topics, various meditation topics, and essentially any teaching that the Buddha gives in the canon can be taken as a meditation topic. It can be developed as a kind of perception. We call it like a perception or a sanya meditation topic. And kind of take that as the basis through which you see the world and try to develop that perception. But what we don't want to do is develop a theory that this or that particular meditation topic is going to be the most efficient one for reaching sotapanna or Sakkāya-diṭṭhi or etc. for this or that reason. A lot of that is personal. It depends on the way that a person's mind operates. So a person kind of goes through and samples different curries, tries out the ones that feel good for the body, and then continues eating them. This is one of the really difficult things about meditation practice, is that people want clarity. I mean, they want a clear path that can be laid out in front of them and say, okay, first you're going to have to do this, then do that, then do that, then do that. But actually meditation proceeds a lot of the time through uncertainty to a certain extent. I mean, you can sometimes only see a few feet in front of you in terms of what you're going to be trying to practice. Like, what's the next thing I got to do? Well, it's right here. You know, it's kind of, what's the big defilement that's clouding my mind, that's always tripping me up? Okay, well, it's right here. I've got to try to take care of this particular defilement. And then one can choose a meditation topic that's conducive, that's working well for eliminating that defilement. And that is not as clear-cut as you might think. There can be times when we're practicing and we're taking on, say, like an insight topic to eliminate a defilement, and it feels good, it feels like it's working. And then it might be the case that after a number of years of doing this, one starts to feel stuck, or like small negative effects can accumulate in the mind until every time one practices it, these kind of negative tendencies can start to arise. And that can be the case with topics like asubha. It could be the case with a pleasant topic, even like metta, not just an insight topic. In that these things, if we don't practice them in a rounded way, in a totally balanced way, they have these little negative aspects that can build up. So you might start to feel a little bit weird thinking about corpses all the time. First it was interesting. You start to feel like a little depressed or a little bit strange, and that's probably a sign that it's time to change. So the mind requires balancing, and it's not always easy to pre-plan that. It's something you can have a theory. Well, I've been doing asubha for 3 years. I mean, it seems to be working well. It should work. One can have that theory all the way to the end. And then 2 years later, weird stuff starts to come up. So what do? At that time, you can see for yourself, okay, well, I need to make my mind, one can see for oneself, I need to make my mind calm. It's this kind of investigation. I'm not feeling calm enough to do this. I've got to change away from insight and focus more on samatha, the development of a samatha topic. So it's important not to have too much of a top-down attitude towards meditation practice, because that can box a person in. And in boxing a person in, it can ignore the accumulation of negative tendencies that can come along with practicing a meditation topic without all the requisite skills to develop it to its fullest extent. So in terms of the perception of annata and making breakthroughs, one of the points from the Thai forest tradition is that the perception that leads a person to a breakthrough, the main one will be different in each case. But one of the things we can extrapolate from this is that basically the other ones are present at the time of a breakthrough, at least in an implicit way. I mean, anicca, dukkha, and anatta are all tied together. These three perceptions are all tied together. And at the time when a breakthrough occurs for a person, that occurs in a moment. It's kind of like, it's a moment. It's not like wouldn't be the case like a person is, unless somebody is like Venerable Sariputta maybe, or somebody who is exemplary wisdom. It's not the case that somebody's necessarily sitting there like, I'm going to do annata, and then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. It's better to picture that process almost like one is fighting a war against a living opponent. And that's why you can't necessarily have a top-down battle plan, a top-down battle theory. It's actually, there's actually a phrase, a kind of saying in war that I heard. And that saying is that battle plans go out the window once the first shot is fired. But it is possible to win wars. It is possible to defeat enemies. You don't necessarily know when they're going to be defeated. It can be the case that they seem extremely strong. Next minute, they crumble and fall away. I mean, you can see this historically in cases like, for example, the Soviet Empire. I mean, kind of might have been able to see some economic signs or whatever it might have been. But, you know, the facade, what it seemed still quite strong, and all of a sudden, like a complete collapse. So in a war and a fight, it can be that way. And when it ends, when the fight ends, when the enemy is defeated, is something that can happen almost, you can say, spontaneously in a way. It's not something that's pre-planned. So the perception of anicca or dukkha or anatta, these are actually like broad categories of perceptions. And one doesn't necessarily have to think of it like, I'm going to cultivate anicca, I'm going to cultivate dukkha, I'm going to cultivate anatta, like think of it in this way, although one can think of it in this way. What one wants to be trying to do is to figure out how to stop one's defilements. And implicit in that search is going to be the need to see the things that one is attaching to that's causing one to suffer in such a way that dispassion shows up. And so that can be something like very individual, very personal. So when you read the stories of the Ajahns who've made significant breakthroughs in their practice, then what you see is it's not often like they have the case like, I'm going to cultivate anatta. Like the way that happens can be very spontaneous. It's kind of, they might have been contemplating the jhanas and looking for stress even in jhanas, or they might have had all these strange experiences in terms of the arising of like corpses in their meditation. And then all of a sudden they go to meditate one day and then their mind just goes back and does a review, and then an insight arises, which cuts the fetters along with that insight. So what's primary in the mind at the time that a person has a breakthrough is going to be very personal. What will cut fetters is going to be an act of discernment, not an act of samadhi. Not an act of calming the mind. It's going to be an investigative act that is successful in cutting the fetters. So the long and short of it is that overarching theories are useful. They're important, and the Buddha gives them. He gives the Four Noble Truths. There's duties associated with the Four Noble Truths, and these duties actually can be like relatively broad categories in many ways. So what is not so useful is to come up with a theory like, okay, what are the fetters, Sakkāya-diṭṭhi, and I've got to get lust, so I have to do this topic to attack lust, or I've got to do this topic to defeat Sakkāya-diṭṭhi. There can be some usefulness in that, but actually a better way to approach it in general. Asubha is the best topic for countering lust, but it might not be the topic that leads every single person to become a non-returner. So what one wants to do is to see step by step, what's the next 3 feet in front of me that I have to go? And then proceed in that way in order to eliminate one's defilements, while keeping the frameworks that the Buddha's given in mind. We don't want to go off and start making up, one doesn't want to make up one's own meditation topics. You kind of start thinking, well, I've got to contemplate less, so let me come up with this meditation topic on my own. It's kind of something totally out of left field. So we want to stay within the topics that the Buddha's given, and so that framework is important to keep in mind, that the Buddha has taught these these meditation topics, and then to use those as tools to eliminate the defilements that are right in front of one. And sometimes that can't be pre-planned. You could be doing asubha for years, all of a sudden it starts getting weird. Something comes up, it's time to switch. You could be doing samatha practices for years, and then all of a sudden, it's just stagnated, and okay, it's time to turn the mind more towards insight. It's something that you'll know better at that time. So these frameworks have to be held in such a way that we can take our practice and develop it from the bottom up, as well as having these frameworks from the top down. But a lot of what will happen developing these frameworks or developing our practice from the bottom up, it's a path that leads into uncertainty. It's kind of a big part of letting go of the things that are causing us to suffer is stepping into uncertainty from time to time. We rely on these things that cause us to suffer, and letting them go will mean stepping into uncertainty to a certain amount. So we can't pre-plan that. So it's good to keep in mind that the way that we'll need to move forward a lot of the time will have to do with this bottom-up approach to practice. We don't need to think, got to eliminate Sakkāya-diṭṭhi to become a sotapanna, so I better focus just on annata. The other things are a waste of time. If asubha is feeling right, if it's helping one to develop in one's practice, if one's good qualities are going up, one's bad qualities are going down, then asubha is a good thing to do. It's a good thing to keep doing it. And whatever the primary perception is, whatever category it's under at the time of a breakthrough, you can find that out when you get there. Just keep traveling on the path 3 steps at a time. And then when you look back, you'll be able to describe it more fully. And at that point, the theories won't be so important.